time for a quick run through the papers. I'm joined this morning by Ben Cope, political commentator with Young Voices UK. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Ben, big story on the front of quite a few of the papers is these worries that our robot overlords are going to do away with us. AI pioneers fear extinction, says The Times. On the front of the Daily Mail, AI could wipe out humanity, and the eye's gone with AI creators fear the extinction of humanity. I mean, it's scary stuff. Who's worried and why?
It sure is scary stuff, and I think it underlines that AI does pose a very real risk, and that we need to start thinking both quickly and deeply about how we regulate it. In this specific example, we've got the OpenAI Sam Altman, so the creator of ChatGPT, among other AI products, along with a whole host of prominent figures in the AI industry, warning that AI does pose a similar existential threat to humanity as pandemics or nuclear war. And while I don't think it's necessarily useful to compare different existential risks, it seems like a bit of a apocalyptic top trumps. I think when the people who are creating these technologies and who stand to commercially benefit from them start waving the flag and saying this stuff could get dangerous, we do have to listen to them. In some ways, it's
Sorry, Ben. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they're talking about it as being as much of a threat as pandemics and a nuclear war. You mentioned top trumps there. Do you use AI?
I do. I'm a big fan of technology. When it came out, I was very excited. I started playing around with it. More recently, I've started using it in my job. I think it's a great tool. It can take away a lot of the sort of drudgery, the sort of simple admin work. So I find it very useful. So for that reason, I'd really push back against to sort of just to pause all AI developments. I think we need to acknowledge that AI has some tremendous benefits. We're already seeing, for example, some great strides made in medical science that could benefit a great many people. So while there is this big threat that we need to start regulating for, we also should realise that this technology, could really change the way we live for the better.
And these companies that are in charge of developing it, I've read that they've been afraid to speak out about this earlier. Do we know why?
Know too much why. I think it's a concerning development that the people have been concerned to speak out, and I think it really does speak for the lack of regulation in this space. You'd hope there would be sort of interaction with government and potentially across different AI research labs that would mean that this kind of whistleblower mentality wouldn't be quite so necessary, that there's a much more transparency, much more dialogue, and hopefully that would mean that that's something we can reach for quickly to make sure that this technology is developed much more safely.
It certainly seems, these problems certainly seem to mirror the environmental crisis where, countries are basically competing and no one's backing down on the use of fossil fuels and everything else. And it seems like there's a bit of an arms race with AI as well. So obviously we're going to keep seeing more and more stories like this in the press. Moving on, Ben, the picture on the front page of the Times is academic Kathleen Stock. She spoke at the Oxford Student Union yesterday, talking about her opinion on trans rights and protecting female spaces. There's a picture of her looking like a rock star in shades, surrounded by beefy, burly security guards. Carol Walker on Times Radio last night had a couple of guests on this and the debate around trans issues. Jeff McMahon, who's a professor of philosophy at the University of Oxford, was actually at the event yesterday where Kathleen Stock spoke. Protesters tried to stop it happening. They glued themselves to the stage. Now, he told Carol protesting at this event instead of debating was unnecessary and even effective.
The people who were trying so hard to disrupt this event and prevent her from being able to be heard or listened to feel very confident that they know the truth about these moral matters. But my question is, if they are so confident that they are correct and that she is mistaken, I don't understand why they just don't come to the event and explain to her why they think that she's wrong and hear what she has to say. They're not going to persuade her or anybody who is interested in what she has to say that she's mistaken by trying to stop her from speaking. It's totally ineffective.
Now, Ben, we've seen a number of speakers deplatformed at various universities and talks. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak actually got involved in this. What's he saying?
So he's come out as a big proponent of free speech, saying that the academics should be able to talk. I think, frankly, I was slightly disappointed by his intervention. You know, while I am a big supporter of free speech myself, I think it's a sad day when the Prime Minister feels he has to intervene in a sort of small dispute that's going on in a university about whether a speaker talks or not. You know, when we think about the fundamentals of what's going on here, we've got an academic speaking about what I think is a fringe issue. There was a protest, some people saying she should be deplatformed. That didn't happen. She gave a talk. There was a protest and the talk went on anyway. So for me, this seems like within a certain space and within a university. But I think it really shows how, you know, the cultural wars have sort of pushed this agenda potentially too high up the news agenda.
Right, and obviously the problem is it can be selective. Why is Rishi Sunak speaking out on this, but then, you know, not on other issues? Just finally, Ben, this ITV story, Philip Schofield won't go away. The presenter of This Morning, his co-host Holly's now been dragged into it, and we're also hearing MPs could get involved. Why?
Well, I think it really points to how deep that people think that this crisis, I think we have to now call it, at ITV goes into ITV's culture. I think so. Philip Schofield was a big star on one of their key programs, and he's, you know, there has been a sort of key failing, I suppose. You know, while we have to say that it appears that nothing illegal happens yet, this certainly seems like a failure to protect sort of young staff from powerful senior people within the company. So I think that this really does go right to the top of the media company. You know, if there are sort of two scenarios for the chief executive here. So either they try to cover it up, which is inexcusable. You know, why would you protect your reputation over the well-being of junior staff, or she didn't know, and in which case, why didn't you know? Why do you have an institution? Why do you want to run an institution where you don't know that such significant failings are going on? So I do think this poses significant questions for the organisation.
Ben, thank you very much. Another story that's going to run and run. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
The time is